Hello and welcome to the Schooner Pod. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me is Ty Lee. And, folks, the long wait is over. You can finally stop refreshing Twitter every day. Your bosses are very thankful for this news as we enter a new work week because Brent Venables is reportedly going to be hired as the new OU head coach. This comes after Joe Castiglione and him had a meeting. They're currently en route to Max Westenheimer Airport in Norman. The band is there. The Sooner Schooner's there. It is a party up there. And while they're in air, we figured we'd sit here and give you our first reactions to the hire. Just a little quick show. And Ty, I got to ask, after all of this, long, crazy week, you had Dabo rumors, you had Drake rumors, you had all sorts of stuff. Yeah. It turned out being the guy that we all kind of thought it would be. Are you pumped about Venables?
I am. And I do have to say he would be I don't want to say first choice because I think we all know who my first choice would be Saban, obviously. How could you not?
Well, of course, yeah.
But Venables, I think, is my first, reasonable choice. More so than Dabo even. Because Dabo, you feel like you get a guy who's there for a couple of years and then who knows. But Venables is a guy that loves the program. Defensive-minded, which is huge. There's a lot of fair arguments, that our system going into the SEC maybe wouldn't have been great. But just a guy that loves the program, and he's a proven track record as an assistant, in a couple places. So multiple national three or four national championship rings?
He has 3 with OU in 2000, and then the 2 in with Clemson.
So, yeah, I don't think anyone should be upset or anything but overjoyed to have someone that loves the program and we know is going to be a good fit.
I mean, absolutely. And, I think a lot of people were kind of concerned that he wasn't the sexiest hire in the world, that he wasn't, this big flashy type of hire. But I tend to disagree because I think, he's a guy that a lot of people have been vying after to, finally make that jump to head coach. And really, OU has had success taking coordinators in the past. And damn, if there was not a better defensive coordinator out there, I cannot find one because what he has done at Clemson has been nothing short of remarkable. His time in Oklahoma was also very successful. Didn't end incredibly well. The defense kind of slipped a little bit, but I gotta say, I'm thrilled for a lot of the reasons that you said because he is an OU guy. Bob Stoops in his press conference last week said that he's a program that Bob himself was a program guy and he would do anything it takes, whatever the program needs. And Venables is that type of guy, a guy who truly values OU as a program, values OU as a brand, and values the football team. And that type of energy is just huge, especially when we've seen what happens when a guy who doesn't care about that could do to you.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we are recording this, I think, about 45 minutes before their actual touchdown. I'm sure by the time you guys are listening to this, you've seen it. There are hundreds of people out at the airport awaiting his arrival. As soon as sort of the news that the band and the Roughnecks and the Schooner were out there, it was he can't. That's not a rehearsal to get those people out there on a Sunday night. So very exciting. Yeah, and I just wanted to real quick as we progress through touch on. Like you said, Venables left OU. Defensively, we weren't amazing, but we weren't necessarily that bad. And you have to turn the clock back, to that time frame and sort of that big shift in the offenses, especially in the Big 12 that we saw when a lot of really big things started to click, and we had a really it was around. Did he leave the year after RG3?
He left in
all that, or was that prior?
2012.
Yeah,
So
so and that should sort of put things in perspective for people. You know, we don't want to go off on the tangent of the coaches there, but just Baylor blew up. A lot of other people blew up. Just
Oklahoma State was
offensively,
great in 2011 as well.
Yeah, offensively, a lot of things were changing. You know, and that's how the novelty of things. You know, you don't know how to defend it, and he obviously doesn't struggle defensively. You know, he left OU in 2011 and then went on to win 2 national championships with a tremendous Clemson defense. You know, pretty much the entire time he's been there. You know, they had a down year this year, but they were under him defensively. You know, they were neck and neck with Bama and beating Bama at the highest levels. So
yeah, the issue with Clemson this year was not their defense. Suffice to say, they were playing a lot of really tight, really defensive games. I'm taking a little gamble.
Well, everyone has down years. You know, unless you're Bama, then your down year is you lose to A&M, and then you just end up number 1 conference champions again, and are going to win the Natty again this year.
Alabama's down year is they literally just they barely care during that season, and then wake up for the SEC championship and just nuke Georgia, who mentally just does not have it. Which there you go. That's just
not to get off
story
track,
of that program.
Saban implants a microchip or something in his former assistants. Like
God, clearly.
He trains them wrong as a joke, just so that they can beat everyone, but not him.
But I mean, looking defensively, they let's see, the most points they gave up all season, 27 to Wake Forest, who, as we know,
that's not a bad team.
That's not bad, and not a bad offense, especially. That's a team that could really gun it. 27 tied with NC State as well, who is another pretty solid team
offensively,
as well. Yeah, so I think he's perfectly set for it. And what I love is this just massive groundswell of support that we've seen from former players, and that right there for me is something that's really exciting. Both from you have current Clemson players upset that he's leaving, and then the former guys just over the moon excited. You see Nick Harris out there pumped up, Dusty Dvorak. Those guys have his back, and that is really exciting to see. That you kind of have that culture back. We've talked a lot about how OU has this kind of family sort of situation where the old guys come back. Everyone's still around. You have the Malcolm Kelly rap going, which, hey, he might actually be a staffer in a couple weeks. But with a guy like Venables, that really becomes a thing because he is truly one of our own.
Yeah, no, for sure, and that's so important. I think that's the biggest thing. I think maybe I'm sort of blinded by OU fan bias, but I couldn't name you someone else that we would, the Saban jokes aside, I could not name you someone else that I would want to come in because everyone else, presumably, because you can make arguments for anyone. Make an argument for Ryan Day. Make an argument for Urban Meyer. Make an argument for Bill Belichick. Throw the wildest names out there. You're not getting guys that are going to be here for a career. It's like I don't know if I said it on the air, if that was in our text, but Oklahoma is not somewhere that you want a head coach to come in to get a resume billing. Oklahoma is a place that head coaches are supposed to go to and then retire from. And not a whole, I'm not even going to name other coaches because I want to be respectful, but not a guy that's going to go to OU and have some good, coaching and whatever else and have some good seasons here and there. OU is a place where good coaches go, get essentially tenured as far as coaches go because of the stability in our athletic department, leadership, and the stability and the way that we're organized, where we have not a crazy situation like Miami, where you got too many Chiefs, or Texas A&M even, where you have too many people with too much money that have too much say. OU is fortunate enough to have just enough money where we can win when we put the right system together, but not enough that we have too many people that we can't say no to. Because not to blame, Miami, Texas, and Texas A&M specifically, but they got a lot of people that have enough money that you can't say no to them. And OU, is fortunate in a way not to be in that situation. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a too many cooks situation in a lot of places. Like we're seeing in Miami right now, where 50 people want to hire a new guy while they have Manny Diaz, which is just
Who's a good
crazy.
coach?
He's a pretty solid coach, and he's only been there like 2 years. But thankfully, this kind of to the side. Think
Oh
Joe
my goodness!
Castiglione.
Wait.
What?
Oh, this is a whole nother story. We
Oh,
have so many
okay.
good storylines.
So many good.
Teams abandoned by their coach bowl game for OU.
It is, yeah.
In
No,
Oregon? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
no. They did like a fake press conference, and someone asked Mario Cristobal, or no, Bob Stoops said, "Good luck on the recruiting trail" to Mario Cristobal, who was literally just trying to leave. Cristobal didn't answer it because he had his microphone muted and didn't know. I mean, who could judge? But whomst among us? But no, I to your point about OU being a stepping stone job, I agree. It's not at all. This is when Lincoln left. That was the first time a sitting head coach had left voluntarily, not due to being retired or something. Since 1976, and it was the first time a head coach left to take another head coach position in college football since 1946. So it's crazy ground. And as a university, you don't want to become a stepping stone program because that's how people will view you as. I will say, talking about these other programs, this was a situation where you really see the value of Joe Castiglione, because we do have a lot of founding support, but it's like all the donors understand that they work for the program in a way. They don't want to. Sure, they'll throw their opinion in there, but they know at the end of the day they're just here to help Joe Castiglione work and let Joe Castiglione cook. And the value of having a donorship that will just put all of their eggs in one guy and let him work is so important. And it also takes a lot of strength from a guy like Joe Castiglione to do that. So, major props on Joe. He did a fantastic job during this search.
Yeah. In actually, a quick point, even farther back, Chuck Fairbanks left OU for the New England Patriots in '73. So
yeah, 73.
3 years. Insignificant, but also kind of significant. But yeah, this shows the value of the family that we have. There's no other word to use for it than family, and we've been through, I feel like most of our listeners are OU connected enough and OU recent enough to know, it's sort of the same situation, and not to get into a whole nother storyline, but with presidents at OU in a way. We had a president that was here for a long time, and there's a lot of criticisms of him. There's a lot of opinions about him, but he was a guy that bled crimson and cream and loved OU. And then we had, some other people come in that maybe, had higher opinions or something else, no matter what your opinions of them may have been. I personally was pro some of them, but now we have Joe Haraz in the system here, a great president at OU, and a guy that bleeds crimson and cream. And I think that's sort of the situation we have with Venables too. It's that family. We want people that are connected to OU. We want people that are not, dreaming of another place when they're in Norman, which you can have your arguments about Norman, but it's not a bad place to be, especially if you're making,
Oh yeah.
We don't know Venables' contract details, but certainly it's going to be 7 million plus a year. So we'll see when that comes out. But yeah, if you're making that amount of money, Norman, Oklahoma is not a bad place to be living.
Oh no, definitely a lot of bang for your buck for sure.
Yeah. So
I just want to say what we got here shared on our screen. It's a nice little tweet from Brian Mead. He's already zooming the team from the plane. You see Joe Haraz over here wearing the OU hat. Seems just incredibly happy. I love it. Not even landed in Norman and already getting to work. You absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, that's a nice. Not getting enough view here, but sort of the sideways couch, and then those windows. That looks to be a fairly new Gulfstream 600 or above. This is a very expensive aircraft, so we certainly shelled out the big bucks to bring him over. But certainly happy. Bobby, here's a quick storyline. What is going on with his son? Have we heard anything? Have we heard any storylines there? Because he currently, for those that aren't aware, Brent Venables' son is a safety at Clemson.
Yeah. So apparently his entire family is with him on this plane as well. Not sure if his son would be included on that. I would imagine he would
Well, I'm
want to
talking about
transfer.
next season.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
So
with. No,
yeah.
I know what you mean. I'm thinking he would transfer. Um, just because it's a family thing. And I'd be okay with that. Have a Stoops and a Venables out there.
Yeah,
Be
no,
pretty fun.
who knows? I don't really know anything about his son off the top of my head, but outside of pure nepotism, getting on Clemson's defense is much harder than getting on OU's defense. So presumably, if it's like a Drake Stoops situation where he just legitimately is good enough to walk on as like a preferred walk on, presumably he would actually be an asset to the OU defense, much like Drake Stoops, our current head coach, until Venables is announced,
That's true.
um, is a truly an asset to OU's offense. So.
Incredible, incredible. By the way, a lot of y'all in the chat right now. If you have any questions, make sure to fire them away for sure. But yeah, I'm really interested to talk with Jamison and see how everything progresses with recruiting. Because let's be honest, this is a big defensive name. There are already a couple OU players out there, kind of maybe tampering a little bit. It annoyed us whenever USC was doing it. We're cool with it now. But we'll see how it all pans out. But I feel like this hire not only stops the bleeding, but really invigorates a lot into this program. And as Bob Stoops said with Big Noon yesterday, this could be a thing that makes OU better. I think there's a real chance this improves the program, not just stops the bleeding and resets things.
I concur, and I've had some strong opinions on Lincoln Riley, but I think like I talked about with the OU leaving to the SEC and the Bedlam game is as time goes on you get those sort of rose tinted glasses and Jamison and I and you as well. I don't know how much publicly the listeners are reading in, but we were very hurt by the decision, obviously, but understanding. I think we all concurred that USC was a better spot for him. So we're so excited to get Venables, and we've got some comments here that are actually really good segues and ties into where we want to move to, is because everybody loves speculation, right? We got the Venables confirmation. We loved, as much as you hate it, you love it. You love the pain of refreshing Twitter all the time. You love that high, like gambling or whatever else you're into, right? Of throwing it down on roulette. I personally, I hated it, but also I loved whenever I got a notification that someone had sent me a link to a tweet, because you never know. You never knew. So speculation, let's speculate a little bit on coordinators while we have some time.
Yes, definitely. By the way, Oklahoma officially just announced it. Everyone knew already, but it is officially official. Venables named Oklahoma's 23rd ever football head coach, which is just crazy that we've only had 23. That's some success right there. Let's talk about a couple guys, and mainly I want to shout out to 1982 Boomer Sooner here. We may need an adult harness attached to Brent because he's just as passionate as ever. Who are we going to have as our holdback guy for Brent? I really hope we get a good strength and conditioning guy, because he needs to be a good holdback guy.
I had a good sort of conspiracy on this. The other day I was texting you and Jamison and Bowden Blake, our resident TCU Baylor guy that comes on sometimes. Maybe the OU rumors are we're just going to hire some lame head coach, but then we got someone like John Cena or Arnold Schwarzenegger as our strength coach. So who knows? I feel like strength coaches, maybe you can go just full meme, as the kids would say nowadays, and just hire someone random.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That could work. Just someone random.
But important.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say important storyline a lot of people are thinking about, right? We've had a couple people in conversation for the OC job specifically. I presumably, hopefully, we have a DC. I've been very outspoken about not wanting a head coach that is also functionally a coordinator. So I hope that does not happen with Venables, although I feel like it wouldn't be as difficult of a situation as sort of HCOC. But we've got two really big names in the conversation, being, I'm going to botch the first name, I'm sure. Jeff, is it Jeff Lebby?
Jeff Lebby, yeah.
Jeff Lebby, who is the OC at Ole Miss right now under the Lane train, and and then we also have, and now I've just totally, Joe Brady, formerly the OC of the 2019 LSU Tigers, won the national championship. Also formerly the OC of the Carolina Panthers. Just today, he is no longer on the Panther staff and is completely a free agent. So who knows?
Yeah, but both of those guys would be good hires to me for sure. I love the option of getting Stone Cold to be the holdback guy.
He's a big Texas guy, I thought.
Hopefully he flipped. I don't know. I will
sure
not.
He went to Texas.
I feel like I saw him make fun of OU at one point on game day, but
college football at Texas.
I do not know enough about Stone Cold Steve Austin, but either way, I'm still in on having Stone Cold. Maybe Jim Ross can talk some sense into him. But talking about OCs, Lebby is intriguing, and I think he's probably going to be the guy. Everything I've seen is like that's pretty locked in. There are questions about him and Baylor. He was a bit of an Art Briles sympathist, I don't know. He had sympathy for Art Briles, as you know. That's his father-in-law. Apparently sold hashtag CAB shirts, so don't love it. I personally would prefer Joe Brady. I think Brady just, well, one, you keep Caleb Williams because Williams and him had a great connection back when Brady was at LSU. And I get the flight risk thing. I get that he's a bit of a, NFL type of guy, doesn't like recruiting. But my thing is, you can find these Wondekins, offensive coordinators. They're a dime a dozen. I think you can get plenty of them. So if he leaves, just get the next hot thing and throw him in there. The next Jeff Lebby, if you need to. So I think you go for Brady if you can. If not, Lebby's a very, very solid consolation.
Yeah, no, I concur, and not to diminish the position. Obviously, it can win national championships. I've long been a proponent of the belief that Dave Aranda and Joe Brady won the 2019 championship at LSU. Aranda being obviously the head coach at the Big 12 champion Baylor Bears now, but coordinators can come and go. I really think it is just so beyond important that we have a consistent guy. Who knows? Again, we don't know Venables' contract details yet, but presumably, barring something wild, that would be very unfortunate, obviously, if it were something wild that would lead to a termination. But Brent Venables is 50 years old. You can assume that most likely scenario, if he pans out and works as a head coach, this is his first head coaching job, he'll be coaching here until he retires. And who knows when that will be, but certainly more than 10 years. And certainly I don't think anyone expects that we're going to have the same coordinators the entire time. And we've got a couple guys on the staff right now that very well may move on to being coordinators if they remain on the staff, specifically with Biedenbow, which I think we'll get into a little bit more on a later podcast. And then also guys like DeMarco Murray, who's now fully committed to coaching, is by all means a tremendous coach, I believe. I think he's done a lot with the running backs that he's been given in his time, and he's great at recruiting and super passionate about football. I could see him being a future coordinator. And who knows? Even guys like Gundy, even Cale Gundy. Poor Cale
Gundy. Cale Gundy. Just he needs to go up the ladder a little more. He's been stuck as the wide receiver or the running backs wide receivers coach for like ever. Poor guy. Gotta say a couple things. First of all, love this comment from our guy Joe here. I would love the conspiracy of him just going to just hopping over to Charlotte, picking up Joe Brady, figure that out. I also love that the abbreviation for Charlotte Stadium is the BOFA Stadium, which is just incredible. Not quite sure what BOFA is.
That's actually the corporate recognized official
really
acronym for Bank of America, which is headquartered in Charlotte. Yeah, but
That is unfortunate. Hey, by the way,
they had it before, but yeah, now it has become unfortunate.
that is very unfortunate. By the way, loving the chat right now. Just keep asking questions. We're loving it, folks. Apparently, just a little over Arkansas. They're cruising on in. Loving that. Loving that. Steve Austin played football for North Texas.
There's
There
someone
you
in
go.
the chat called Osprey Flare. Are you an actual Osprey driver? If so, mention it in the chat. That would be cool. That would be cool. Bobby doesn't know what that means, but
I don't, but it'd be very cool. Levy being the guy at Tulsa that illegally just wearing a Tulsa hat on the sidelines just to check out the game. That was, I don't know if I don't like that or if I think it's ingenious to try to sneak onto the sideline. Either way, I respect the hustle.
Yeah. So, in real quick, I think as we're sort of reaching the terminal phase of this sort of short, quick reaction podcast, we're gonna have a lot more as this week goes, and just for the listeners, I feel like potentially none of our listeners are interested, but I'm going to be doing a lot of Beat Army content this week as well, which is exciting. If you're a viewer, you can see we're already representing. But defensive coordinator obviously is another coordinator naturally. So I think we want to get into some of the speculation there. There's been a lot of sort of Hail Mary names, such as I always get it confused. Who's it, Libby or the guy at Georgia? It's too similar.
No, you're thinking Lanning.
Lanning. So yeah, Levy and Lanning would be a very confusing situation, but potentially a championship winning one as well. So what are we feeling if we hired a DC soon? Presumably we will. How are we feeling about that?
See, I don't know who you'd find because we've been looking at like these high tier DCs that could go up to a head coaching position, but I still don't know what the market is like for these kind of guys who just need an upgrade.
Well, and that's sort of the thing too. So while you're thinking on it, just to sort of entertain the listeners, while I personally disagree with having a head coach / coordinator at a position, like I talked about on the last one, I like having a head coach that maybe has, well, all head coaches should have the veto power, but a head coach that's sort of the monarch of the position, but then you have essentially a prime minister in that position who is the named guy. So while I feel because Venables is a defensive guy, maybe we don't need necessarily, I understand it's important for recruiting, but maybe we don't need a, Lanning at DC, as much as we would love him. Lanning, if you're listening, please come to OU.
I know we were considering you for the head coaching position, but please just be a DC.
but is it necessarily that important in your opinion if we can't come up with, because I can't come up with anyone off the top of my head.
And see, I wouldn't be opposed to just promoting a guy like Jamar Cain. Or potentially Brian Odom if he stays. One of the guys we have in house right now, bringing him up a little bit, which I wouldn't have any issues with. I know Venables has a couple of his guys that he loves from Clemson that he might bring with him to kind of bolster that. I think you do need a dedicated DC though. But at the same time, I know Venables will be very hands-on with both the linebackers and just the defense in general, for sure. Danny Stutzman is staying. Hell yeah, I love it. Which again, perfect fit. Brent Venables, one of the crazy, intense energy. I absolutely love it. So him and Stutzman, just perfect fit.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
that's a big...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then I'll let you sort of read some of the live comments we have. I think this is something that everyone will agree with me on, and I'm not trying to say this as a slight against Lincoln Riley or Alex Crenshaw or whoever else, but Brent Venables is not a guy that has teams coming into games against big underdogs he's a guy that gets his people hyped up, which I am so excited to have, because that's one of the most frustrating things I think of the Lincoln Riley era, as it is now Sundowns and as we progress forward, is it was a perennial issue of the Lincoln Riley era, that we had these games against teams that we were double digit favorites in, and then we come in and underperform. And sort of the biggest one, you can point to almost every game this season. But games like the West Virginia game this year, where it was 16-13, or I personally I like to excuse some of the earlier games, especially if they're out of conference, like the Tulane game and some of that stuff. Who knows? But it is just, when you lose a game, it's one thing, especially when it's against a good team like Baylor, the conference champs, and OSU, who is a very good team this year. That's one thing, but just even when you win, that underperforming because guys are coming in flat, they're coming in not caring, they're coming in just so, I can't even think of the word. I'm so excited because it's a 10-2 season like we've had this year so far. Obviously, we're going to a bowl, but it feels completely different than, say, if we had a 10-2 season where we blew people out and just still lost 2 games, but they were upsets, and we at least performed against the Kansases, against the West Virginias, against the teams that we should blow out. So I'm excited. Hopefully, that's a big change. But I think it's a reasonable expectation with a guy that is coming in and that's known to get people excited.
Oh, absolutely. And motivation has always been a bit of an issue. In the Riley era, not just entering games, but continuing through games, completing games, finishing opponents out to completion, because we've had so many issues where teams come back. In the Venables era, our defenses did not let up. Look at some of those Red River games, like 2011, 2003. Venables is the author of some of those greatest defensive performances that we've seen in a while, and frankly, we haven't had that since. So defensively, this is going to be a program revived for sure. But
yeah,
and just energy wise, can you think of 2 better head coaches than Brent Venables and Porter Moser? Both are just so incredibly hype, and I love it. I love the energy we've just injected into our athletic program.
Yeah, and that's some of the stuff. We'll have to post it up on sort of socials for some of the listeners that may not be familiar to see. But some of the things, when you get transcripts of some of the coaches that are pretty low demeanor to the public, which Venables, is not like yelling at the press. Gundy is a guy that always plays up. I've always been a big proponent of the belief that OSU will always overperform expectations.
And I mean they've been great, by the way.
Yeah.
OSU, even though they didn't win it all or win the Big 12, they've definitely they've done better for what they have.
Yeah, but you look at guys like Kirby Smart. I know he's coming off a big loss against Saban and Bama, but it's Saban and Bama. And then Saban himself. When you look at their public appearances in the press and everything else, and then you look at the odd locker room videos that are there, or the transcripts of their locker room conversations, Kirby Smart specifically, I want to tag on him because I think he's a really sort of polarized example, is just super, almost boring to listen to in press conferences and stuff. And then you look at the transcripts, because there's very few locker room videos of him getting the guys hype. You look at some of the transcripts of him, of players that have recounted it, or journalists that have been in there, and he's saying, let's make them never want to play football again. Let's go out there and just dominate them, knock every one of them down to where they don't even want to be here. Let's make them all transfer out of this conference, stuff like that, which sounds corny when you say it. Sounds corny and the transcripts, but when that's the halftime speech, when you're tied against a big team and you're dealing with 18, 19, 21, 22, if you're Caleb Kelly, 39-year-old guys, it's that gets them excited in the moment when you got that adrenaline pumping, and you need that. You don't need the guy going in being like, hey guys, good first half, let's go out there and get them. You need someone to get them excited, and that's a big role of the head coach specifically, because you can have your position coaches. You can have your DeMarco Murray, you can have your position coaches going in and saying that, but then the head coach comes in flat, and it's
they set the tone more than anything. And when you have a guy, and it's so hard to talk about Lincoln Riley versus Venables without sounding like you have sour grapes, because when you have a guy like Lincoln who is his messaging the entire season is we're close, it's going to be fine, just wait, we're close, you're not going to make any progress because you're going to stay stagnant. Because if everything is just okay enough, you're not going to get better. You need to be critical. You need to push your guys. You need to motivate them to get better. And that's a guy we have in Venables. Chase Miller over here compliments your hat. First,
thank you. It's golden.
Yeah, it is a golden hat. It might not be the golden hat, but it is a one. Let's take a look at some of these comments here. A lot of comments thinking about who follows Brent from Clemson, which will be interesting.
We've had a couple comments on that, and
yeah,
I think the quick answer is presumably his son.
Yes,
but also we don't know, only because this was meant to be sort of shooting from the hip, quick reaction podcast. As we're recording this, still the live viewers know he's been officially announced, but he's yet to even touch down.
He is in the air.
Yeah, so he is currently in Oklahoma airspace, which I guess per the rules of Bedlam technically belongs to OSU, but we've got a diplomatic agreement to fly through. But I think the quick answer is we don't know, because we didn't necessarily know for certain until a few hours ago. So we're not necessarily that read in on Clemson's defensive players and the intricacies, but it's important to note, I think, that Clemson has a lot of very good defensive players, and that is because of Brent Venables and because of his recruiting prowess, which I do think we need to touch on, because he's reaching a whole new level of recruiting. And just I just want to mention it. Jamison is our recruiting expert, is not here tonight, so quick teaser for a podcast coming potentially tomorrow or later in the week.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a way more in depth on this whenever we can get some time. But we're loving the support in the crowd here, loving the comments. This is we were just meaning to get like a quick little 20-minute in and out, but we're having a fun time. We're having a Brent Venables party here. Shout out Lori, hell yeah. Goop, I think that's an interesting point about because I think Stoops thought Lincoln Riley was going to keep this thing going a little longer, but you never know. It's surprising. Lincoln is a good offensive mind. He is a good coach. He does have flaws though, and I think we can't act like he's a bad coach all the way. He has little issues.
No,
for sure.
He is a good coach, and I've been saying sort of on the podcast on and off, not to sort of toot my own horn, but I had always said a few times that Lincoln is a young guy, especially as a head coach, and he's learning as he goes, as he's developing and continuing to refine his craft. OU was the first head coaching job he ever got. So I do think he's going to be better. Who knows what his ceiling is, but he has, at least 20 years of head coaching ahead of him, if not more. So yeah, I don't want to criticize Lincoln Riley too much, but ultimately you got to play the game with the cards that you're dealt. Everybody would love to have a perfect hand of cards. Everybody would love to have perfect lemons to make your lemonade, but those are not the cards that we've been dealt. So we got to be realistic, and we don't want to come off too bitter sort of in our criticisms of Lincoln Riley. But Brent Venables is our new head coach, and we got to fully commit to the leadership that we have now and look at the positives. And you can't do that without comparing it to, what you previously had, which ties into Bob Stoops as well. We got guys on this team that were recruited by Bob Stoops. We have guys on this team, Caleb Kelly comes to mind, but potentially even more, that I know he won't be playing in the bowl game, but we have guys on this team that played as players in games under head coach Bob Stoops that are still here. At least one. So I assume there's more.
A lot of these seniors were recruited by Stoops to come here, and there are comments. Specifically, Isaiah Thomas, I believe, said, "I'm excited. I actually get to play under the guy who recruited me here. He's the guy I signed for," which I think is really cool. I appreciate it, Matthew. By the way, MES thinks, hey, I think we're way better. I feel way better than I did last week when we had our emergency show there. Those were some down times for sure. Shout out Greg. Greetings. We're excited to come to Lincoln next year. By the way, Greg. Hopefully Venables is if he's a slight upgrade. That's good. That's exciting. I've seen some people in the comments being like, he'll be way better, and I don't know if he'll be way better. He'll just be different, and I think sometimes different is what you need.
Yeah, for sure.
Brittany over here wants to go out after Joe Brady. I'm for that for sure.
It's not a bad. Yeah.
Not bad.
Most people agree.
Yeah, Mr. CEO. The hard ass thing is interesting because the era is different. This is the era of NIL and the transfer portal. I think that's a legitimate fear, but also I feel like if you're entering the SEC and if you're entering a tough, hard-nosed conference, that's something that you want your players to be there. You want the players who are on your team to be not afraid of facing those challenges. So maybe it weeds people out. I know that was an issue that a lot of people had with Schmitty, OU's old strength and conditioning coach. But look, since then, our strength and conditioning has gone awful. So, hopefully it draws people who want a challenge, who want to fight on. That was a bad phrase right there. Who want to fight through the some tough times. So I'm excited. What do you think about the mindset change though? Going from a bit of a buddy friendly type of guy to someone who will kind of get after your ass a little bit.
So I think the important thing again, and not to sound like a broken record or even to sound like I know more than I do, because obviously if I knew as much about football as Lincoln Riley, I'd be making $150 million a year and living in LA. I wouldn't be doing a podcast. No offense, but
hey, none taken.
I think not to sound like a broken record, but I think that again can be mitigated to some extent by having actual firm set in stone coordinators, because those are the guys that are interacting. Again, if you have a head coach that is more hands-on than say what we would think of as a monarch nowadays, but a monarch with a parliament and with a prime minister with an elected government, so to speak.
The CEO sort of role.
You have a figurehead. Yeah, you have a CEO or a president with a functioning whatever. But like someone said in the comments, obviously I've said it like 15 times on this specific podcast alone. I'm a big Saban guy. Saban is, maybe a little bit less with his players. You see it some in the behind the scenes, but Saban is not. I don't think anyone would describe him as the good cop in Bama's locker room. And he constantly, every year, has new coordinators, new people coming through, and but he has that consistency. And ultimately, when you're winning, that's what matters. I don't think a lot of people would have described Barry Switzer as sort of the nice guy or the good cop. Especially at the time, and even looking back, I think maybe a little bit less because we have those rose-tinted glasses and that warm and fuzzy feeling because of how he's been now. But a lot of people in the past, when we were good and in our down years, wouldn't have necessarily described Bob Stoops as the good cop in the locker room either. So
absolutely, there
is something to be said. I think if you only have one guy that is functionally doing everything, it's a different story, and when you have one, not to down on it, but let's turn the clock back a couple of years ago. You have one really angry, really eccentric, really upset cop in Mike Stoops, and then one I wouldn't even call Lincoln Riley, and I'm not trying to talk down on him, but I wouldn't necessarily call him a good cop, more of sort of a passive cop. That creates a really bad environment. But we have guys that are younger, that the players know that care about them, like DeMarco Murray, guys that are just easygoing guys like Cale Gundy to an extent, and I don't think it would necessarily not fit to have someone that is a little bit harder on the guys. Which again, that's going to turn people off, but ultimately, it's not necessarily about having the best people, because you could have the best at every position group, the best at every coaching group, and still not win. It's about having the sort of the pieces that fit together. It's more of a Tetris than a sort of to see how high you can stack, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's about making everything fit. Exactly. Um, Man, this is exciting, and I gotta ask. We need to send a official message out to the athletic department. Can they get a picture of Brent Venables and Boomer and Sooner together? I
Can
want
we
to see.
can we
I
get
want to
a
see how they relate to each other.
can we get a picture of the first time that Brent meets Baker Mayfield? He's very important to the program.
Yeah,
I just think it would be
yeah. I want to see if they have instant chemistry with the horses. Shout out to Reveille and that weird Texags poster from a couple years ago. Man, we got a lot of good comments out here. Justin S is big on Levy in the comments here. 1982 says the good thing about Brady, wouldn't have to worry about a buyout or anything. Storm has an interesting point as well. Yeah, go ahead, Ty. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say it would be a masterful move, or just sort of a super lucky coincidence for Brady, being Joe Brady, the OC of the Panthers formerly, as he was fired today, which means they're gonna have to pay him out, and he's now on his own. I understand, there's a lot of storylines there that Brady maybe necessarily is more of an NFL guy in what he likes, but it's pretty late in the NFL season. But the NFL still has a lot of season left. And it's not unlikely maybe that he would take some fat money for a short-term contract to bounce himself around, especially if he knew that he was going to have a hot quarterback like Caleb Williams to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of comments in here that are about Caleb Williams. Will he stay? And what this means. Now, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a retweet. But he did retweet the news about Venables. He has been receptive at the OU game on Wednesday, OU basketball against Florida. He was throwing T-shirts into the crowd. So he is a guy who he stuck around. He hasn't said a lot, but his actions seem like he's a guy who at least is still interested. I think it comes all the way down to who Venables hires as offensive coordinator. If it's Brady or Levy, I think there's a very strong chance we keep him. Right now, I'd say about 50-50. It's too hard to figure out what an 18, 19-year-old is thinking in general, let alone one with so much future ahead of him. So that I think now that we have the head coach set, it's about who are we hiring as OC and are we keeping Caleb? From there, the offseason can figure itself out, but those are the two biggest questions. And if you hit on both of them, this could still be a very good team next year.
Yeah, and that's, I don't want to say the first domino to fall, but you really couldn't do anything else until you had firmly 100% contract signed on the plane with Joe and Joe coming to Norman. You couldn't do anything until you had a head coach. So I disagree with this statement. I agree with the sort of feeling, but I disagree with the statement that Williams saying is 50-50. I think it is either 100% or 0%, which naturally evens out to 50-50. But I think if we get an OC that is not good or that he doesn't mesh with or that he doesn't believe in, it's a 0% chance that he'll stay. And I think if we get someone, even if it isn't one of the big, 2 or 3 names, someone that he believes in and believes in him and he can tell, I think it's 100% that he will stay. So I think it's really dependent on that. And that was a thing that we weren't necessarily going to know. And a lot of the guys that we have lost to the transfer portal that have left, just announced today, Jaden Hazelwood going to Arkansas. Obviously, the other big name being Spencer Rattler, who was announced he's going to USC, which would be really interesting next year. But we were sort of expecting not to have those guys here next year, regardless of where they went, regardless of the head coaching outcome. So I wouldn't say we have had a lot of surprises, but I have been very optimistic, and I think everyone else should be, about Caleb Williams' sort of reactions to how this has occurred. Because I understand he's a freshman and he's new and he's put in just a ridiculous position for a freshman, but things like him going to the game, like you talked about, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to make a public appearance. Obviously, he can't really make a low-key appearance, but he's sort of shown that he's open to it. And I think that we have the potential now that we've announced something firm that good things can potentially happen. I think we've set ourselves up to where the future is in sort of our hands as a staff. And you know that he's been talking to Bob, probably a couple hours a day, or at least a fair amount of time he's spent conversing face to face, I presume, and then also over the phone with Bob Stoops. And who knows, maybe even Barry Switzer, maybe even who knows who else, just saying, hey, we got stuff working. Let's see how this turns out, and then let's do the best thing for you. Because Caleb Williams is different from Spencer Rattler. Bobby, I'll let you go real quick here in a second, but it's not. He's a freshman. He's working on half a season of play. The best thing for him, because I truly want the best thing for Caleb Williams, regardless of how this turns out. I would love for him to stay at OU, but if that's not the best thing for him, you want the best thing for him, and making a snap decision is not the best thing. So I'm glad that he's waited, and I think that shows his maturity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, by the way, little typo there. Rattler is currently crystal balled to go to UCLA, not USC. Which is
did I say USC?
You might have tripped. We are.
Yeah.
It happens though. It's been a wild week. We're all very tired. But talk about Hazelwood. Hazelwood is going to Arkansas as well. Drew is not a big fan of our guy Jaden. I wish him the best though, like Justin S here. I'd love to see the guy out, or see the guy do well over there. We basically traded Hazelwood for Mike Woods. I think that's fair by me. It's going to be really interesting to see how it works. With everything with Caleb, I'm cautiously optimistic. But if you know me, I always trend optimist when it comes to OU. So here's to hoping it works. Some people are out here talking about Gary Patterson as defensive coordinator, which would be very fun. But also, probably past his time. I don't think you'd want to be an analyst. He's not quite that down bad yet. But yeah, no, I'm with Dale here. I would love to see UCLA take out USC. I'm just a big Pac-12 guy at this point, so
it's plausible. I think we've all, we're facing them in our bowl game. But UCLA has been sort of trending upward. They have DTR. I've got it right this time, not DTY. Their outgoing quarterback, who I think Rattler is a good replacement for. So that will definitely be an exciting game. But I do think the transfers, we've seen what we've seen so far, like we talked about. But I think that I do want to say, not to rain on the parade, but the sort of the bleeding of transfers isn't over. Right, because you have there are inevitably going to be some guys that were waiting on the coaching announcement, the head coaching announcement, and some more guys that are probably waiting on the coordinator announcement, because that is their future. And certain guys, regardless of their potential, will maybe just mesh with other people a little bit better. So I don't want to. Yeah,
sorry. We have Muschamp. We have Dan Mullen as well. We're building I love how the chat is basically building 2008 Florida and 2008 OU as like this weird mush of national
Florida.
Championship. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, but I don't want anyone to. I want to temper expectations. We're still going to lose people. There are still going to be players that are going to transfer. Now that Venables has been announced, and then when the coordinators are announced as well, that's just inevitable. And I don't think anyone should be too upset, because, again, like we talked about at the start of the recording with Venables, regardless of their skill on paper, you want people that want to be there. You want people that want to be at OU. You want, like, Baker Mayfield as a quarterback, a dude that's fully committed to the program. You want Bob Stoops. You want Brent Venables. You don't necessarily want a guy that is maybe the best in the world on paper, but isn't just in love with OU or doesn't care that he's at OU. So, culture. Like you just threw up one of the comments. Thank you, AJ, for mentioning that.
Yeah,
culture.
Thanks for the sub, by the way.
That's the one. That's the one. Word. The one word summation of what I've been saying. The culture is what matters, and if you really look at it, There's a lot of schemes, but a lot of the schemes have changed at Bama in their dynasty run. But a lot of the schemes changed and developed throughout Dabo and Clemson's run. A lot of the schemes changed with Barry Switzer, with whoever you want to name. Back at Bear Bryant, some of his schemes changed. Bud Wilkinson, if you even want to go that far back, he didn't run the same stuff the entire time. The schemes change, the schemes develop, the schemes evolve and iterate each year. What remains consistent is that culture and that environment, and that's what's so important, especially as a head coach. And that's what, like we talk about with Bama. Clemson, obviously, prior to Venables leaving, has been pretty stable, but Bama, in their run since Saban got there, has had probably literally close to 50 OCs and DCs and different big names have rotated through there, right? And they've changed, they've done different things as they've been there, but they've continued to be at the top because the culture, because the head coach, because the nucleus of that team. And that's what you want to establish at OU. And that's what we have with Stoops. I'm sure there's a lot of people that will wish that we maybe did more with what we had there, but I really don't think you can be upset. We had a national championship. We did really well, and some of the teams we lost to with Stoops were all-time, amazing teams. So you want that core nucleus that is firm, that has a good culture, and that doesn't require, an amazing, big name. You don't want not to kick a guy when he's down, but you don't want Coach O at LSU where he needs Dave Aranda and he needs Joe Brady, or else he's going to be terrible. You do not want that as a head coach.
Which is, you have to have this balance. You have to have the balance of being the CEO, of having, everything under control, but you don't want to just be a guy who can recruit well and eat gumbo very well and talk to the kids good. That's all great, but you have to be able to coach as well. Because the second everyone else gets good, you're just bad because everyone else left. Shout out to Paul Husker. We have a lot of Huskers in here tonight. We have a lot of people in general. And I gotta say, for most of y'all, likely this is your first time ever seeing whatever the hell the Schooner Pod is. First of all, welcome. I hope y'all have enjoyed it so far. This is certainly a wild experience for all of us. We're enjoying it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, because we got a lot of great content, a lot of weird content. We did a cooking show.
The people that are viewing, I think, should notice that one of the hosts is currently wearing a Navy jersey and an ill-fitted cheap cowboy hat with a Post-it note on it. So.
That says Golden. Yeah, no, this is not your standard OU football show for sure. Usually, so we have fun. We like to get after it. We like to have a good time. And we're here all throughout the off season for sure. So make sure to subscribe, stick around. This is available on wherever you get your podcasts as well. So make sure to hit the subscribe there if you like the audio version. I know I certainly like driving around listening to that instead of, first of all, don't like looking at my face in the first place. So I don't know why y'all are here. But anyways, let's take a look at some of these comments. We have a lot to cut through. We're just kind of I'm just gonna kind of,
there's a really good one down here that just got. I'm gonna let you go through them just sort of organically, Bobby. But there's one that I have. A cool point
absolutely. Okay. A lot of people saying we need to compete in the SEC. Interesting point about Joe Brady not wanting to recruit. I kind of agree that's an issue.
That has been a big, and that was sort of what I was hinting at when I said more of an NFL guy, which has been a thing. He's had, I don't want to say an attitude problem because that comes off wrong, but he's a guy that it's very different being a coach in the NFL and being a coach in college. And I don't think he'll be forever in college like some of the perennial college guys are. Yeah.
Agreed. And I also want to address some people in the chat are wondering if there was bad blood between Stoops and Venables. Venables wasn't fully pushed out. He was supposed to be like a co-DC with Mike Stoops when Mike came back, and Brent took the Clemson job, basically is what it came down to. So,
and I do want to say, from Venables' point of view as well, right? No one knew. Bob didn't even know at the time that he was going to retire in 2015. So if you're Venables in 2011, you got to see that, because most people coach into their 70s, that you're looking at at the fact that Venables was sort of never going to take over at OU until he was very old. So regardless of how he loved it, it's when you turn the clock back, you got to look at how it was 10 years ago and sort of the environments and see that he knew that Stoops was going to be tenured here for forever. And like someone said, I guess he came from Kansas State. You know, he knew it was a Bill Snyder situation where we had our forever guy, and he was going to be here as long as he wanted to. And Venables is not necessarily that much younger than Stoops, so
he is. Venables will be the second oldest head coach ever hired, behind, I believe, Schnellenberger. Schnellenberger was 60 when he was hired in 1995. So,
yeah, but Venables is a forever guy. He has if that and I don't know for sure. I'm not trying to say I don't believe you, but I don't know for sure. But if he came from Kansas State, which I know he did, but I don't know if he came from somewhere prior to that. But if he went K-State to OU to Clemson back to OU, you're talking about he's only ever worked under just permanent for life tenured coaches. Like he worked for Bill Snyder, he worked for Bob Stoops, and then he worked for Dabo Sweeney, who now that we have the OU rumors over, we know is going to remain at Clemson for forever.
Can I just say real quick, Green Country Paranormal, I want to see this channel. I'm all in. I love a good ghost thing. That looks awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, but we want that long-term relationship. And I think OU is that environment where if you have a down year, that's fine.
So we just brought on other co-host of the Schooner Pod, Jamison Maxwell. Sorry to cut you off there, Ty. Just had to get our guy on. Jamison, first reactions here to what is a big day. Brent Venables, the head coach. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sorry I had to join late. I was studying, but it seems like we're getting a good following. So here's my game plan. Here's my take on this. I told y'all. Okay, word flex, whatever.
Mark Mangino for conditioning coach.
I'm in. I love it. Do it.
So here's my.
That's my favorite comment. I'm sorry, Jamison. Go ahead.
No. It's totally. That's beautiful. I love it. So my thing is with Venables, and I talked about it before when we were first hearing. I was a little bit apprehensive about Venables because we'd said this is a guy in his 50s, just about to turn 51 here at the end of this month. And why has he been an assistant coach all of this time and not made an upgrade whenever he's won 2 national championships and has done a hell of a job at Clemson? And now, as we got a little bit more information, we've learned that the reason why he hasn't taken a head coaching job because it seems like he really enjoyed his life as a DC at Clemson, and he really didn't see himself happiness-wise wanting to take a head coach job anywhere else other than his dream job of Oklahoma. And as soon as I heard that, it was all full go for me for Brent Venables because that scary part of there may be a skeleton in his closet, and that's why he's not getting the job. That's out the bag now. There's a clear reason why he isn't doing that. But I'm very happy and I'm very excited to see where we go with this offensive coordinator and filling some position coaches. I've been trying to compile a list of a lot of the recruits, Clemson players, and current Sooners that are having positive reactions to this. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get a full list tomorrow.
Absolutely. There's a lot more to come. Like we said earlier, he's still in the air. He hasn't landed yet. He's getting close.
He should have landed.
Oh, wait. Never mind. Osprey Flyer just said he landed. We got it.
Oh,
The Brent has landed. I've been trying to share a screen of some sort of stream here, but my StreamYard's messing up a little bit. But anyways, yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited for this for sure. It looks like a massive crowd at Max Westenheimer, for sure. So, Jamison, I gotta ask just briefly, like the recruiting impact. Do you see any chance of any Clemson guys following him?
That's the thing. So I wrote down just 3 recruits, and they're all defensive backs from Clemson that have reached out on Twitter and have said something to one of their friends who are currently on Oklahoma. There's going to be more in the coming days, but that's just the ones I've seen right now. And these are a couple of guys that were recruited to Oklahoma during their high school time and could come over. But at the same time, take this with a grain of salt, everybody, because, a lot of times you see this on Twitter. It's like, hey, Sooner fans, get me to 10K. And it's some random recruit. And they're just trying to play to the Twitter fans of, that fan base. So they are interested. They are listening, but also they could just be trying to get some hype. I think, Andrew Makuba by far is the most realistic one because this was a guy that was an OU lean coming out of Texas as a defensive back. And he's best friends with Latrell McCutcheon. And we gave him an offer after he visited. And it seemed like he was going to be this package deal that would land him and McCutcheon. It was going to be great. Then all of a sudden, the recruitment of him just went dark, and we just didn't talk to him after that, which was super funky. Goes off to Clemson. Now gets all ACC as a safety there. We are going to have plenty of space in our safety room, and I think he would be more than happy to come by and be in that race for those Delaren Turner-Yell and Patrick Fields spots. The other two guys, another safety, RJ Mickens. He is, I believe, from South Lake. He was a guy that we recruited, and he's friends with DJ Graham, reaching out to him. So there's another name. And then Malcolm Green was reaching out to Damon Harmon. So all secondary guys, but I would not be surprised if we start seeing more linebackers and defensive lines, the backups at those positions. Kind of think about coming over because we're going to have a lot of turnover in the next, week from the transfer because that from the new coaching because that's just how it works. But also, like we've said, that there's some positives and negatives, and we're talking about some gains here that we can possibly get.
Okay, we are seeing some live feed here from Nick Stoya. I am adding a little banner here. This is what we got going on over here. Got a little live stream. I've been trying to find whatever. Shout out. Follow Nick. Great OU content for sure. Got News 9. I'm trying my best to get everything going. Yeah, no, this is... It looks like a wild atmosphere here, folks.
People are jumping up and down.
They're doing the you thing. So that's huge. That is huge.
Hey, did y'all talk a little bit about the Dabo Sweeney thing with Brent Venables? Because I think that's kind of an interesting.
We didn't really touch on it. I do want to say, not my conspiracy, but based off what Dabo said today, in a tweet, at the very minimum, Dabo's agent did in fact speak to OU potentially as a him coming to OU, which maybe lends some relevance to the rumors. I believe Dabo's exact words were that he never interacted with OU, but he did speak with them or something like that.
Yes.
It wasn't for him. Yeah. So there was definitely a conversation between an agent acting on behalf of Dabo and probably an agent acting on behalf of Oklahoma as well.
I think that it was really telling in that comment about whenever Dabo is speaking Venables. And I was kind of thinking out loud about all of this Dabo Sweeney taking the job and, Venables coming over. But now that I thought, thinking it over, did it really match of Dabo's persona to go and it's like, okay, Brent Venables, this is your dream job. This is the only head coaching job you'd ever take. And we're really close friends, very good buddies, and we've been through a lot with each other. But I'm going to go in and take this job, and we're going to keep you in the defensive coordinator position. That just didn't seem right. Even if there was some thought of Dabo wants to get out of the ACC because the SEC is the future and stuff like that. But that just did not seem like it really matched his persona, how he would carry himself, and really would kind of almost just screw over his friend in taking that one position that he's been waiting for a long time. The thing with Dabo, I understand there's a lot of, I think that we've talked about this a lot in our group text. Him as a person is kind of, you either love him or you kind of are turned off by his interesting personality. But if we would have pulled Dabo, the amount of Clemson transfers we would have got would have been way much more than we're going to get with Venables. But would we have gotten this guy that truly loves Oklahoma? You can tell he bleeds crimson and cream and is been wanting this job for a really long time. So I think that we're very blessed with what we have, even if some people had some Dabo pipe dreams. It's not, it's not all horrible getting Brent Venables.
Yeah, no.
We
go ahead.
I was going to say we did mention that. sort of early on was you can name, because I know Jamison, I've been thrown out in our text like Saban, Bill Belichick, or Urban
Yeah,
Meyer,
right.
all these crazy names. And you can make the argument maybe that they're a better coach and that they'll win us a championship, but I don't think they're not forever guys, right? And then even Dabo, if he leaves Clemson, if he stays at Clemson, he's a forever guy. But if he leaves Clemson, then he's willing to go anywhere else, like Brian Kelly, like Lincoln Riley. And I think what Bobby and I sort of spoke to a little bit, and for the listeners and viewers that have just joined in, you want the guy that's sort of the tenured guy. You want the guy that is going to be here until he's taken out almost in handcuffs. Shout out to Barry Switzer, or retires like Bob Stoops. You don't want the guy that's filling a resume billet. And even if they're not filling a resume billet, like a fancy name like Urban, like Belichick wouldn't come to the college with Saban, Dabo, you're not going to have them forever. And then you're making a deal with the devil, right? Because you got something good for 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, and then you're right back where you were now. It's sort of a payday loan situation. So you want to make that long-term commitment, which is what Venables gives us. And I am so happy that we have someone that is so happy to have us, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, and as we said at the very, very start of this show, when most of y'all weren't on here, he's a program guy, which is something Stoops was real big on, obviously, in his press conference. Someone who would drop everything for it. That's the type of guy who you want in here, who you want at OU, who you want to really lead this program into the future, into the SEC. I'm all for it. This chat is wild, man. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't really care. Shout out to Joe. The people need to be introduced to Bowden Blake. I agree, but he would just probably find some way to tie it into, I don't know, whatever is going on at TCU. Maybe start grandstanding, talk about how Jamie Dixon needs to get fired.
There are a couple. Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
I thought I was on mute.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Has he landed?
It looks like I see a plane there.
So, yeah, no, there's a plane there. I don't know if he's just hanging out on there or not, but shoot, I don't know.
No. It looks like they're still in the pattern. Okay. I can confirm this by not my expertise, but the windows that I saw that I know, it looks like the, what is it? It's a Gulfstream. Shoot, I don't know what 8 windows is. They're on final right now. They've been in the pattern. Unless my tracker is incorrect, he is on Lima X-Ray Juliet 654 from Anderson, South Carolina. They're at 1,500 feet on final for OU Norman.
Is that not the plane though, right there?
No, was this like a?
You see that little jet?
See, no, this was oh, there he is.
Oh, hey.
Okay, there's just a random Nick Stoya. How's it going, man? It's doing some loading.
I hate to be this person, Bobby. But have you plugged our podcast? Because
yes,
we got a lot of new listeners here, and I haven't plugged yet. So I know there's a lot of great OU podcasts out there. A lot of them are from former OU players and stuff like that. But if you want kind of a more fan,
there's the plane.
They've just landed. Yes, like I said, I called it earlier. It was
nice.
a G650.
The Osprey said it. The Osprey said it was landed, so I thought that was the plane.
No, they just landed.
Shout out Josh. Woo pig. Okay, go ahead, Jamison. Let's keep plugging.
Yeah, no. If you want like a fan kind of podcast that's not as much analytical to the football aspect, but still we know what we're talking about. But it's not like former players talking. I mean, we're a really good podcast. Come listen to us. We've been pushing, 2-ish, 3 podcasts a week out with all this new news. We'll be recording another podcast tomorrow with new information about this Venables hire and kind of talking about offensive coordinator and the recruiting aspect of it and the transfer aspect of it. I'm going to go into a deep dive of their Twitter of all the players and see how they react, and we'll get a little bit more information tomorrow. So if you don't already subscribe to us and check us out on Spotify and Apple, and so you can keep up with us so we can talk a little bit more about the aftermath of this hire.
Yeah.
It is on Spotify. To clarify, that aircraft that we're looking at on our stream that's loading is not. We got him a much bigger private plane. We got him a G650, as in the song "Like a G6."
Oh.
So looks like they're at the far end of the runway right now. They're at the north end of the runway. For those unfamiliar,
I'm trying to get our stream back, y'all. Sorry.
So it all belongs to OU. But sort of the OU flight school, the OU terminal where Aussies, RIP Aussies, for our Norman listeners, know is on the south end of the longest runway there. So we got a couple minutes of taxi time. Presume we were going to do a 15-minute podcast. We're an hour 15 in. So
I'm laughing right now because the way Ty, you know your stuff, obviously, but you sound like a weatherman, a meteorologist right now during tornado season.
Yeah.
Okay, we got something.
If you're
on the
in
ground
Norman,
right now.
if you're in Stillwater, take shelter right now because your days of wind and bedlam are over.
We got the wall cloud. We got the
Venables. Yeah,
the bird is getting close to Aussies. If you were close to Aussies, it is getting close. It is
Aussies does not exist, unfortunately. Yeah. So they are about 2 or 3 minutes of taxi time until they're right there on the OU owned tarmac. They're probably going to pivot the plane around. You know, the door is going to be on the opposite side if they're taxiing south. Stop, get out. So I think in about 5 minutes we should get Brent Venables stepping off the plane. Maybe more if they take their time and do some sort of ridiculous ceremony with a red carpet or whatever. But 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to get our first shot of Venables stepping off the plane at the tarmac, which coincidentally and very rewarding for OU fans. In about 5 years, we're going to get a really funny shot of Lincoln Riley stepping off a plane in LA and then getting fired. So
I love speaking the tarmac firing into existence. I'm all about it.
Yeah. So yeah, we got him a very nice plane. Not to toot my own horn, but I did call it. It's a G650 ER extended range. This is an intercontinental. This is the plane that Kanye takes from LA to Paris to, I don't know what Kanye does. Make good music.
Well, he doesn't really do that
15
anymore.
Years ago, yeah.
Airline scrutiny fun. That's funny.
Yeah. So we can see one of the OU. Actually, there's the plane right there in the middle, dead center of the stream. It's spinning for the viewers right there. Just go bottom left. You can see the taxi light and then sort of the tail. But I just saw something in the chat, Bobby. If you can throw up the most recent comment as we're waiting on the aircraft to taxi. Something to touch on. Cinnamon Sun 06. I don't see why OU is joining the SEC. Ultimately, in my opinion, it's a money thing. It's a business. When you look at the contracts, and the SEC is getting to renegotiate these contracts now with OU and Texas. Texas is the biggest money-making school in all of college football, and OU punches way above their weight into the top 15 and top 10, depending on when you look at it. The TV deals and the merchandise deals and the sales deals of OU and Texas joining the SEC, we're going to be making more in like 2, maybe 3 games in the SEC than we did all season in the Big 12, regardless of championships, regardless of anything else. And you can make the argument, that winning the Big 12 and then losing in the playoff or whatever else is one thing, and it's good to be the big fish in the small pond. But if you can't win in the playoffs, then you're not going to win in the championship. So there is a fair argument, I believe, that joining the SEC for more money for the program, better recruiting for the program, because there is a lot of brand value there. And then regardless of whether or not we win, I think I make the argument that the ceiling for OU is the national championship, and losing in the playoffs or not even making it to the playoffs doesn't matter if you didn't win the national championship. So there are a few arguments, but it's a money thing.
Yeah, I personally think it's money, it's competition, it's interest, it's the fact that the sport is changing. It's becoming more of a Super League sort of deal, and unfortunately, that's just kind of something you have to do. You have to adapt to it. Money, as a cynic, money definitely is a part of it, but I feel like there is a lot more to it than just that. So,
well, as the playoff expands,
Jamison, what were you going to say?
I'm sorry. Here's my thing with the SEC. I really do think that the move to the SEC is kind of I want to be on the front end of the stick before football completely changes in D1, because there is a legitimate chance, just the way that, that everything's looking right now, that, Power 5 wouldn't look the same in the future. This could be SEC as a super conference, and they're in a league of their own. And, then there's a step down to the rest of the Power 5 schools. And there also is, could be some talks of some detachment from NCAA. I don't have any inside information on this, but being in the biggest and most powerful group, whenever you can see the NCAA and the rest of college football having a little bit of turmoil, it would be positive to be in the SEC rather than somewhere else, and plus money. That's my thing. But we're kind of drawing straws out. Hey, did y'all talk about the? I saw this also in the chat. Did y'all talk about the rumors about Lincoln Riley being a player? Was that ever?
Yeah,
good?
no,
we did not.
See,
we
I don't.
talk about it in text, but
I'm not super interested in all that, honestly. Mainly because I don't believe it, especially because he brought the Hansons with him.
No, we can squash it,
regardless of truth.
Let's squash it. Let's squash it.
Yeah, squash it, because if he truly was having an affair with Annie Hansen, why would he bring Annie Hansen with him to USC? That just doesn't make any sense. And then Bobby said this when we first heard this rumor on Saturday. It's like, oh, wow, Lincoln's such a player. He's all over the golf courses at Oklahoma, and you can't get off all the girls. Let's go to Southern California. That's going to really help him and not go after any other women other than his wife in Southern California. There's just two things that aren't making sense there. And the move to USC with Annie Hansen probably is the prototype thing that you wouldn't want to do if you were Lincoln's family, if there was some unfaithfulness. And so it just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, no, I concur, and Bobby is working on, for our viewers. We're getting the live stream back up as they are getting the aircraft ready to deplane.
I couldn't find the better one. I know OU has a better one on their Instagram, but Instagram's giving us an issue. Sorry about the video, y'all. We're back. They have the big OU banner. They have the pride. I'm going to work on finding a better stream in the background. Shout out Nick Stoya. You're still doing pretty good, buddy. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Ty. What were you saying?
No, I was going to say a shout out to Sean Ryan in the comments. He has a very good point about Brian Kelly and sort of being honest about money talks.
The blank check.
It's ultimately that's what it is. That's what it has sort of become for a lot of people in college football. And I don't want to sound, sort of down on some of the new developments in college football, but even in coaching especially, they're making a lot of money, and not that OU couldn't match necessarily some of the money, but it's a lot of people, their alliance is to the money. And Lincoln Riley is not a guy that's from Oklahoma. I know he played it at Tech a little bit, but we got him from East Carolina. And it's just one of those things, the money speaks. As the door comes open on the aircraft, as we live comment this, it is being filmed currently on an apricot, it appears, slightly above
a nice potato
quality.
And now we're back to vertical for some reason.
Michael Bay exploding between landscape and portrait mode.
Yeah, no. Why are we back to Nick? I appreciate the help, man. But come on, man. But buddy, and now we're buffering again. Look, this is on OU though. Why does OU not have a better stream of this? Like, it's tough.
You said it's on the Instagrams, their better one right now.
Yeah, Instagram. I can't access Instagram Live on StreamYard. Oh no, the banner is blown down, folks. The wind has taken the OU banner down. This is not good. They're now scrambling. We're trying to figure things out. And we're going vertical again.
This is an exciting moment. Not to be slave to the sort of.
Someone named Rebel444 keeps saying Oklahoma who. I'm just gonna assume you're probably an Ole Miss
I'm gonna assume he's talking about the
just
NBA.
Gave him credit.
I'm gonna assume he's talking about the NBA, and he's not wrong.
That's fun.
So.
Not saying that John Blake. Yeah, I agree. I will say it'll be more difficult at times, and 12-2 would be a great season in the SEC. But Anyways,
Well, but it's to make the argument that there is bias there, which maybe you can make a fair argument that it's a better league, but I think we've seen now with Bama, obviously the other Power 5 teams all have one loss as well, but with Bama coming in with a loss, with Georgia coming in with a loss, not that there was other undefeated Power 5 teams, but losses in the SEC when we inevitably go, which I think is another storyline altogether, because I don't know that Riley leaving necessarily delayed that, because people forget that we're not the only vote there, right? Like Riley leaving is one thing, but we're going with Texas. Texas and OU are not going in different years, right? Like we're a package deal from the start. We're going to roll in the same year. So the fact that the OU is for sure playing in the Big 12 next season, barring something crazy, I don't think Lincoln Riley leaving has caused that. I think it's evidence that from the start we were going to be playing there next season, because it's not up to us, right? And it's almost in Texas's interest to sort of strike while the iron's hot and try to move now to kick us while we're down, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
not that they would, but
no, and it's whatever. But I wouldn't be too worried about. I'm not too worried about Texas and what they think about things, because
I was just pointing to the I don't think, because I'd seen some comments about that. I don't think Lincoln Riley leaving has delayed the move to the SEC. We don't know when that's going to be for sure. And here's
video of Brent getting off of the plane, by the way.
I believe that is his son behind him in OU.
I think he had his daughters and his sons on there. Yeah. So one is currently a safety. I think he's a junior, and the other one's graduated and played linebacker, if I recall. So, I mean, it's pretty safe that the safety would follow him. This was a guy that got a legitimate offer to Clemson to play. He was a 3-star guy, and it's not like, here's the deal. With like Drake Stoops, he was, I just got an email to my OU student account. You are invited, Coach Venables announcement event. Looks like Monday at 10:30 a.m. at the Everest Indoor Facility, and doors open at 9:30 with a clear bag policy in effect.
Ooh,
I don't know if that's only
No, it's everyone.
Thing.
Oh, it's everyone.
Yeah.
How
I don't
are
know
they
if
going to
that's
do
been
everyone
announced already, but that was cool.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the release. Yeah,
that doesn't even make sense. How are they going to fit everyone in there?
Look, I don't know how many people are available on.
Oh yeah, they're
Monday.
running shuttles from the parking lots and everything.
I have no idea how they're going to fit everyone in there, but that's pretty dang cool. I love the press release is really interesting. It actually has a quote from Bill Snyder for some reason, which I think is pretty great. Shout out Bill Snyder.
The Kansas State connection with the defensive coordinator and all that stuff.
He said, "I am so very proud of Joe Castiglione for hiring a truly special Wildcat in Brent Venables, which is just, there you go, very special Wildcat we got there." Obviously, great quotes from Bob, actually Brent as well, who seemed just absolutely excited. And my favorite quote from Brent is, "The OU logo has never been stronger. Protect the shield. Protect that OU shield for you, for sure." We have a lot of this comment section.
I do want to point out for the comment section. I'm pretty sure OU and Bama actually have a 500 record against each other. We haven't played that many times, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, it's a very weird series where it just doesn't happen a lot.
So the series is OU has 3 wins, Bama has 2 wins, and then there's 1 tie. So OU does in fact have a winning record against Bama for Drew Harry, who was asking.
Shout out. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm trying to get everything settled here.
So the tie was in 19. Oh, no. That's wrong.
So obviously the most recent matchup is a Bama win, but we have a winning record because the most recent matchup was a while ago in college football.
So we had the Sugar Bowl in 2014 where we won, and then we played them in 2003, and we won 20-13. And then in 2002, we beat them in Norman 37-27. So we beat them in that 2002, 2003.
Yeah,
we have a winning
that
record
home and home
against Bear Bryant, actually.
Yeah, well, that home and home though was a really legendary one for sure. Ronaldo Works had that incredible run in 2002, and you had Bob Stoops' fake punt in 03 on the road in Bryant-Denny Stadium, which weirdly enough, that was actually the first time Alabama had ever hosted a number one team, not named themselves, because they used to play in Mobile, Alabama all the time. Anyways, it looks like Brent is off the plane and everything. There's other stuff going around. So this is looking just about over. What a crazy night we had here, folks.
It's and like we sort of talked about before Jamison jumped on, so I want him to get his piece in here. It's going to continue to develop, and to sort of give you some quick prompts, Jamison. I did mention that the people transferring out of OU is not done. Presumably, there were some people that were waiting on an announcement. And there's going to be some more sort of bleeding to occur, and there's obviously going to be some more craziness to occur, especially in the OC, like we talked about, and then to a lesser extent in the DC, just because there's sort of fewer big names out there. So Jamison, if you want to take that,
it was Birmingham. It was Birmingham. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was definitely Birmingham.
Okay, so this is my take on the transfers, and there's going to be more, and here's why. Because we don't know what assistant coaches are being retained. And you can see that these position groups are quite, they are very loyal to their position coach. So we already knew Lincoln Riley and Dennis Simmons were gone, so therefore we saw guys like Theo Weiss and Jane Hazelwood. Austin Stockner was going to transfer anyways, but we see a lot of offensive guys put their names in the portal. Now, as we get this new coaching staff, we've got to see who's going to be retained as coach. We've heard that DeMarco Murray seems to be pretty solid and will stay. So you haven't heard much from the running back room because it's pretty thin to begin with. And you came out today with the wonderful Wolf of Wall Street tweet from Gavin Sawchuk, which is a huge, huge deal. Being an OU recruiting trail that has really struggled to maintain the running back commits. And this is a high-end 4-star guy, former 5-star commit in Gavin Sawchuk. So that's big. Javonte Barnes is still considering us. But we will start to see it if, for example, Brian Odom, is a guy that isn't retained, or, for example, like a Jamar Cain isn't retained. You might see some movement on that front. But we still see, and I saw David Ugwebu had a comment on Twitter that was a positive thing about the Venables thing. So depending on what your view of David Ugwebu is, that's one linebacker that's interested. I saw Bryson Washington give a good comment. I saw Danny Stutzman give a good comment. Isaiah Coe. There's more to see it. I'm going to dive deep into that over the next day. But as we see who he's going to choose, who Venables going to choose, who our assistant coaches are, that's going to determine a lot of who's going to be leaving from us, because they're very loyal to their position coach as a whole. Because in all honesty, if you lose your position coach, it's like you're starting from day one again and tryouts. And some people will appreciate that competition. Some people like that. But at the same time, some people are like, I've worked hard here for a couple years at OU to maintain my position on this team, and my coach is gone, and now I have to go back and start from scratch again. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just go somewhere else where I can get a promise to be higher up on the totem pole somewhere else. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some more in the secondary moving forward. Probably the biggest group we'll see turnover.
Yeah. I'm excited. It'll be interesting to see who stays. That will be up for discussion in the next couple days for sure. We'll see how that all develops, but I'm really excited. The first domino's fallen. Venables to OU, just absolutely massive for sure. Our guy Tommy is thrilled about it. I love it.
Yeah, no, and I do want to piggyback off what Jamison said. Tomorrow, I think we'll probably shoot for the same time. Again, going live and then publishing on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. I saw someone ask about that. Spotify.
Wherever you get your podcasts, we are there.
Yeah, the superior.
Yes, free ads. They have us on there. They get all the free ads.
Yeah, and then wherever else. But yeah, find us there. We're going to be going live tomorrow. Presumably, we're going to have more news. At the worst, we're going to have more informed speculation about the coordinator news, and then we're also going to tie in some of the greater college football news. we'll be talking about the bowl game against Oregon, abandoned by your head coach game. Jamison, you missed that, so I wanted to bring it up again. So interesting storyline there. It's going to be fun. I think that's a good matchup. I'm going to be working in either independently or on the other podcast. I think tomorrow we're going to go long too. I'm going to be working in Beat Army content all week as well. That's been a big meta thing for us and for I as well. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of plug that as we reach the terminal phase of this podcast here today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you like this, you like these live feeds, subscribe here, hit that bell, get all the notifications when we pop on. And of course, if you want to see more content, make sure to follow us on, mainly follow us on Twitter at Bobby Howard OK for me, at Jamison Tree Fitty on Twitter as well for some more OU stuff. Because honestly, we kind of need to build up our social media a little bit more. This was a very big day, and need to work on that a little bit. But this has been fun. We've loved seeing y'all's comments. This has been a very lively live stream. I'm having a blast. Shout out! Look, I'm happy all of y'all are there. Even the random LSU fan who's out here, with the banter. I'm loving it. This is pretty good. This is pretty great, I would say. Sorry to just hang out and plug for like 20 minutes, but
that's what we got to do. No, Brent will not be coaching the bowl game. B Bean, I love your last name. We're a big fan of Jason Bean here. So we love Beanman. But yeah, no, he probably would just be in the press box, just watch him from afar. But Bob Stoops will be coaching the game. Tomorrow, I think that we're going to have some pretty darn good content. There might be a little repetition, but I wasn't in on the beginning, so let's talk a little bit about Joe Brady versus Levy. That'll be a huge conversation. Let's talk about, who's coming in, who could leave, stuff like that, speculation. Beatembo looking like he might have his foot out the door. Is that going to have a big impact on our offensive line, a position that we've been known for to be very solid for the past couple of years, and probably, our biggest cornerstone coach that we have left? How is that going to impact things? We'll go through all of that. So make sure y'all tune in and look for us tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. We will have, just a lot more coverage, a lot more polished stuff. Again, this was supposed to be a 15-minute show where we just talked about Brent Venables. So it turned into this, but, we love that if this was your first time watching us, which for most of you it was, thank y'all so much for watching. And look, we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll be back to talk about the Alamo Bowl in a couple days. So we're excited. And hell, we have a whole offseason full of stuff. A lot of interesting stuff to talk down the pipeline. So, Well, for me, Ty and Jamison, this has been the Schooner Pod Emergency Podcast. We will catch y'all next time. Make sure to subscribe. Hit that 5-star wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe here. Give us a like. We love it. So, have a good night. Boomer Sooner, everyone.
Don't give up the ship.